Hi everyone, today's video is a little bit different. I'm going to be showing you, we're going to make a card, but it's going to be something a bit different from Carnation Crafts. You might not be aware, if you're not in the UK, of Carnation Crafts. I've been doing some TV shows for them for a couple of months now. Their products are beautiful, but they're quite different than a lot of the other companies that you may have seen. You know, if you're regular to watching my videos, you'll know I do a lot of work for Sizzix, some for Spellbinders, some for Studio Light. So generally my videos are quite heavy on die cutting. Carnation is quite a unique company in the way they work, because it is about die cutting, but you get artwork to go with your dies. So it's kind of the next level, really. All the artwork is done in-house. They have an amazing creative director who has a team of artists that work with him. They hand draw all the artwork and then it's coloured. The colours will work with a collection. For each collection, they generally have papers that go with it. I realise this video is going to be so full of information, so please don't panic if this sounds all a bit overwhelming and there's so much info, because I will put in the description box here on YouTube, I'll put links to their website and instructions on how all this works. So the collection we're going to look at today is called Sheer Delight. It was only launched on Monday. It sold out straight away. But it will be available on their website very shortly. You can buy it now for extended delivery, so it will be coming back into stock at the beginning of March. So depending on when you're watching this video, I'll put links to their website and the all the products that I'm using, so you can see them. If you're viewing this straight away, then you might have to wait a couple of weeks for it to come back into stock. But so the collection is called Sheer Delight. And it kind of comes in two parts. You've got the elements to make an embroidery hoop, which I've got one here. They also sell the tulle that you would be sandwiching between. This is card. You would die cut it twice and sandwich your tulle in between. We're going to do this together, so I will explain how all of this works. So that's this die set here, as well as the dies to create this embroidery hoop. You've got a stand for it, so that you can put it all together. We're going to do it together, so don't worry about that. I'll explain how that all works. So you've got an embroidery hoop. In this collection, you also get this set called Party Setting, which has got some lovely dies, lots of party themed things. These are going to work really well with the embroidery hoop or just for general card making. The florals are beautiful. I will talk a bit more about those in a minute as well. So you've got beautiful florals. I'll explain how all this artwork works as well in a minute, because you'll straight away notice that all of these have got artwork on both sides, which is very clever. So I'll get to that shortly. So you've got all your florals, and then you've got a lovely champagne bottle with a gift box and some glasses, and then two birds. When I explain about that artwork, I'll explain to you how the whole double-sided thing works, because that also means you can mirror the images and have your birds facing either direction. So that's the first part of the collection. I will put links to all of these so that you can go and have a look at how much everything is and how it all works. And then to go with that, there's an alphabet set. Now you can see straight away these are a really good size. I think they're about 8.5, 9 centimetres. Let's just look on my map. Yeah, about 9 centimetres. You've got your letter, and then you've got a mat to go with it, so you can put them on sort of a I've used cream actually just to make them stand out. Let me grab a letter to show you one. Die cut, if I remember where I've put my pile. Here now. Let me just pull one out of here so you can see. There we go. So you've got your letter. They're quite delicate, so I think you probably would mostly be putting them on the mat and layer, unless you're putting this straight onto a card front perhaps. But to use them with the embroidery hoop, when you're going to be sticking them to the tulle, I think generally you would use the matte layer as well. And we will be making one, so don't worry that I'm kind of whizzing through this. So you've got your whole alphabet. within this alphabet set, I think it's on this one, you've got the dies for all of these small flowers as well. More about that in a second. So that's your alphabet. So you get 3 A4 packs of dies. So there's a lot there. There's also a lowercase alphabet to go with it, which works really nicely with it if you want to. These are obviously much smaller. You're not going to fit many of these on a project. So if you want to perhaps do a word, you could do the first letter large and then some lowercase. To go with those, there is a USB. This USB works with the alphabet and it gives you 9 different colourways. I'm going to talk about how you get your artwork in a second. With all of the Carnation sets, you would download your artwork free for whatever dies you're buying. And you'll get 1 colourway, which is this on the packaging and what I've used to cut out mine. However, on this USB, you've got 8 more colourways. I haven't got them here to show you, but if you have I will put links and you can have a look on the website at them all. So you get 8 more options for colourways and they're beautiful. And then you get 154 backing papers and 294 bonus backing papers that all work really well with this Made with Flowers collection. So that's amazing. You've got so much there just on that. So that's the dies you're going to have in this collection. Let's talk about how the artwork works. So you're going to go to the Carnation Crafts website, which is www.carnationcrafts.co.uk. I will put a link to it, so don't worry about remembering that. When you go to the home page, you can there's a link that says downloads. It's kind of halfway down the page. If you click on downloads, it will then take you to a page where all of the artwork is. They're called vignettes. You will then look for this collection. You can type in the name of the collection and it'll bring up everything that's available for this collection. So this is called Sheer Delight. If you type in Sheer Delight, it will bring up the downloads for you. You can download them for free and then you can print out whichever pages you want to use. As you go through the downloads, some pages, some of the sheets will be all images. Some will have a black line down the middle. The ones with the black line down the middle, you're going to be printing those and then scoring down that black line. These are going to give you the double-sided vignettes. So what you would do, I use spray adhesive to just stick these together. Then you would run it through your die cutting machine. And when it comes out, you'll have a double-sided vignette like these flowers are. So if you think about this, you're doubling your cardstock. The other thing to mention, I'm sorry there's so much to tell you, but that's just how it is with Carnation, because it is so beautiful and the artwork, there's just a lot to explain. So when you're printing your artwork, the paper you're printing on makes a massive difference. I'm going to grab now and show you. So Carnation sell Pro Print cardstock. These have been printed. This one has been printed on Pro Print. This has been printed on the usual cardstock I use for printing, which I thought was really good quality. But there is a massive difference, you can see. I've picked these because they're nice, vibrant, rich colours, so you really can see the difference. If you look at these 2 flowers here, this one just looks dull in comparison. So you will find the Pro Print cardstock on the Carnation website as well. I would highly recommend, if you're going for the dies, grab some of this. It comes in different weights. When you're doing your double-sided vignettes, you only need to use really 120 GSM because you're folding that in half. So that is then going to become 240, which is a really good weight. So you don't need anything heavier than 240 for die cutting. So for the double-sided, if you're printing those, I would just use the 120. It also comes in 170 and 220, so you've got the choice. I would probably go for some 120 for all your double-sided, and then one of the others for where you're just wanting to use one-sided dies. So you probably don't need all three. You definitely need the 120 because at some point you're going to want double-sided vignettes. So I would definitely get some 120 and then get one of the other heavier weights as a starting point. So once you've done your die cutting, you're going to have all your elements to play with, and then you're ready to go. So let me die cut these and then we'll be ready to go. So I'm going to stick these together off camera. Bear with me just 1 second. Okay, so I took them outside because I like to do my adhesive spray outside. And then if I grab my die set, I can talk you through doing the hoop because I have already done my hoop. So you've got some circle nested dies for the hoop. I've already done that. So with that, again, you get a mirrored vignette. So you'd be printing this twice, doing what I've done. With these ones where you can't fit two on one sheet, the mirrored vignette works slightly differently. You've got two different sheets and you would just be lining up these in order to create your double-sided. Once you've done that, you will get a double-sided vignette like this. So you've got 3 circle dies in this set. The largest one is going to cut the outside of that hoop, and then the smallest of those is going to cut the inside. So you would just run that through your die cutting machine to cut out that hoop, if that makes sense. You've got a smaller one in the centre, which is going to cut you a smaller hoop as well, so you've got options. You're going to need 2 of these, so you're going to need to do that twice. Then you're going to take some tulle, which Carnation sell. You get a huge pack of it. Let me show you. You get 24 metres, I think it is. Yeah, 24 metres of it. It's sheer netting tulle. And what you would be doing is die cutting this. You die cut a circle from this. So if the largest, let me grab these off. So you've got three sort of, there we go. All right, so the largest one is going to cut your outline. The next one in is what you're going to use for your tulle, because if you cut the exact same size as the outline, you're never going to line that up. If you go for the one that's just one size smaller, gives you a little bit of wiggle room. I would also say die cut probably 5 or 6 at a time. This is really fine. Obviously, it's just like netting. So your die cutting machine might struggle if you only cut one because it is so fine. If you fold it on itself, I did 5 at a time in my machine. I'm using a Sizzix Big Shot. With the Big Shot, I just ran it through with the die. That was it. I didn't need any additional plates or shims or anything. And I did 5 at a time and it cut 5 beautifully. You could probably cut a lot more, but it actually gets a bit, because it's so fine and it slides around, I actually found it harder to fold more than that, and I thought I'm going to end up wasting the tulle by perhaps miscutting it, so I just stuck with 5. That worked beautifully. So what you're going to do is then lay your tulle over one of the hoops, glue it down, and then sandwich it between the 2. So you've then got your embroidery hoop with the tulle underneath. So that's the first part. Now the stand, that's what I've just got here. I'll die cut one of these on camera and do the other one off. You're going to need 3 of these. And the die for these is this one here. And you'll see there's a little notch at the top, so you know which way around that goes. All you're going to do is line that up over your artwork There is a bleed. Carnation always give you a little bleed line around. I like to just tape it down with a bit of masking tape before I run it through, just to make sure it doesn't move, because obviously you do need it to be fairly accurate. So I'm going to just pop a bit of tape there and run that through my big shot. My big shot's just off to the side, sorry it's slightly off camera. So I'll just run that through, and that will give me 1/3 of my stand, and it's double-sided. So I've already done one. I'll quickly do the third one that I've got here, and then we can put this all together. You've also got on this, I've already done these, this piece here, this is going to create a little shelf, so we're going to use that in a minute. And then you've got two different options for the top piece. You'll notice one is more kind of curved, one's larger than the other and more curved. The more curved one fits better on the smaller embroidery hoop. This one fits better on the large one. However, you can use, they do both really fit on either, but I tend to stick with using the more curved one for the smaller one. So I'll quickly off camera die cut this one, and then I'll show you how this stand goes together. So I've now got 3 of those ready to go. Oops. The other elements that you've got here, you've got a beautiful filigree. Let me grab one of those. That's great for going, it fits nicely onto the hoop if you want to use it like that. You could then maybe put the smaller one in the centre. There is also a centre piece. I don't think I've got one of those die cut. But there's different ways of laying this out really. So if you wanted to have a smaller hoop in the centre, you could do, and put the top on that. You've got nested circle dies, so if you want to cut this out so you can see the netting through and have that open, you can. So different ways of using it. And then of course you've got the same centerpiece there with the lovely filigree design. You've got filigree pieces that fit on top of these to make them look decorative. I think I've got some of those here. Now there is artwork for all of these. This lovely sort of brown colour you see here is the vignette, like as we've just done. So you can use that, or you could use some Carnation have a lovely blush cardstock that comes in 3 shades. There's natural blush, which is what I've used here, which is a very sort of linen cream colour. They've just got a real hint of colour. Then there's a blush pink and a blue. They all look cream, but they just have a slight tint of a colour. So they will look, this one's got a warm tone to it because it's the natural. The blue one's obviously got a more cooler tone. It's very, very subtle, but it does look lovely on these, particularly on these filigree type designs, especially when you're putting them over a colour. The other thing I'm going to show you actually, talking about colours, is let me grab the perfect cardstocks and show you those. So these are the perfect papers that go with this collection. They're 300 GSM, so they're not paper, they are cardstock. But that doesn't quite have the same ring to it, does it? So, and with each collection of perfect papers, you're going to get 6 colours. And they will always go beautifully with the colours on the artwork. So whatever colours you've got, you can see straight away the colours are going to work beautifully with the floral elements that you've got with those alphabets and the flowers. So the designs, the creative director and his team will always pick these colours sort of from the colours that are already in the collection. They've got a sheen to them. They're not matte, they're not shiny, they're kind of in between. They've got like a satin finish. The colours are just beautiful, and I would say these are worth having regardless of what dyes you're going for. These are just such beautiful colours and really lovely heavyweight, so they're highly recommended. In a pack you get 48 sheets, so you get six colours, 8 sheets of each colour. So they are stunning. So that's the perfect papers. I'm sorry there's so much to tell you, so much information. and I know it's a lot to take in, but I will type it all up in the description box, so don't panic that I'm overwhelming you with so much stuff. So let's move my dies out of the way and I'll show you how to put this stand together. Let's move that. So I've got my embroidery hoop all done, and then I've got 3 of the elements for my stand. Each one has got a little notch at the top on one side. One of these I'm just going to mount and fold where the notch is, like so. This is going to be the front of my stand, so I'm going to leave that as it is. These 2 are going to be the supporting side. So with these, side with the notch on, you mount and fold. The other score line, well, it's not actually a score line, it's just a printed line actually. So you're going to carefully fold that along the line. I'm just going to grab a bind folder. That one, so that one's a valley fold. So you've got a mount and fold where the notch is, and then a valley fold. So we'll do the same with this one. So mount and fold where the notch is, and then a valley fold on the other one. It's quite easy to get this in the right place. There we go. That's like that. Okay, so then I'll bring this back in. Now, the easiest way to do this is to think about the fact that you don't want to see the notch basically. So you're always going to be covering the one underneath with a triangle that's complete. So I'm going to stick that onto there. I'm going to just use some double-sided tape, and then I will probably put a bit of glue as well, because I can't quite get tape right up to the top there. So I'll just peel that tape off. So that will cover that notch as such. So just look at your edges to line up, like so. And then same again, you want to cover with a full triangle, like so, and then that's going to tuck behind that one, so because you don't want to see that notch either. So actually it's probably easier to start this side. So I'm going to cover that notch with the other half of the front panel, like so. So again, I'll do a mixture of tape and glue, just because I can get glue right to the top. There we go. Line that up at the bottom and to the top. So that's my front panel. And then this back piece is going to sit like that, so that the stand is at the front. So I'm just going to glue these 2 together. I'll put a bit of tape again. Then depending on whether you're going to, well, depending who you're giving this to really and what you're using it for. I like to, oh, I'm getting tape everywhere now. I like to, I'm not sticking that very well. I quite like to make these as strong as possible. So once I've lined those 2 up, it's going to sit like that. It's going to fold flat for posting anyway. I've got a bit of tape stuck on there. Let's just get that off. You can leave it like that and then it will fold, but you can actually stick this like that and then those two together, so it's kind of more sturdy, and then you would just pop this to the side for posting like so. It's going to be much more sturdy like that because it won't kind of open. And I would say if perhaps you're making these, say you sell your cards and you just want this as a display stand, then I would go that route. So I'm going to glue like so and like so, and that gives me my stand. That will take a few minutes to dry, so I'm just going to hold that down a second. Then for the shelf, you've got this piece here. It's got score lines on it, so you're just going to fold on the score lines like so. And this will create kind of like a little box. It's very clever. There we go. And I'm just going to pop some glue on the last piece of each. And then this just folds in on itself like so. So that creates kind of box shape. You can use red line tape if you prefer. I quite like the manoeuvrability I get with wet glue with a PVA. Carnation sell a lovely PVA called Everyday Glue, which is ideal for this because it's nice and thick and it dries relatively quickly. Because obviously with anything construction type, you kind of want it to grab quite quickly. You want the wiggle room, but you also don't want to be sat there holding it for 10 minutes before the glue dries. So that then is going to be my shelf, which will sit there. And it kind of depends what card you're putting on here. With this hoop, I think it works best to have it further down about there. Also, if you wanted to put any of your decorative elements on here, it kind of looks nicer to have this sitting underneath those. So for this, I'm going to put a bit more glue. I'm just using this glue because I've got the handy nozzle on it. There we go. And that's going to sit there. And that will be my shelf for my embroidery hoop. I can fold that out now, that's all dry. And then it's hard to show you on camera, my hoop is going to sit nicely on there. Depends what you're going to put on the front really as to whether you want to decorate the stand. If you're going to put loads on here, you might not really see the stand. However, if you're perhaps putting more florals around the edge, you are going to see that through the tool, so it is quite nice to then add on some of the decorative parts. I will skip that just for the sake of time for this video, because I know this video is already going to be long just because I've had so much to tell you. So I've got my stand. My embroidery hoop needs a top, so let's pop a top on there. So I'll just pop some glue on there and line that up nicely. There we go. And of course, this is where the beauty of having double-sided vignettes comes in, because you're going to see the back of that. So it's great that it's not just white card at the back, it's a double-sided artwork. So that now is the perfect frame to build my design on. So I don't need the stand anymore. I'm not going to decorate it. Obviously, if I weren't doing this on video, I probably would. But for the sake of time, I won't. So the next thing I want is an alphabet and some florals. So let's have a look at what we've got. So I've die cut from some of the cream from those perfect papers. Okay, and that's going to sit nicely in the centre. My mum's name is Kay, so this is going to work perfectly for her Mother's Day card. So that's going to sit nicely there. If you wanted to, I think the back looks perfectly fine because it's just solid. If you really wanted to, you could flip, you could die cut another one of these, but die cut so your die is on the back of the cardstock, so you'd have cream if you really wanted to, and you could sort of sandwich, you could put that on the back so that this is sandwiched either side of the tulle. I don't think you really need to because it's hardly messy looking, but it's an option if you want to do that. I'm going to slip under here just a bit of a non-stick mat because obviously I'm working with netting. Some of my glue is going to end up seeping through and it's going to not stick to this. So let's glue the K on first and then I can work from there with my florals. You can use whatever glue you prefer. Pin flare, I like to use pin flare for the florals. For this I'm just going to use PVA and I'm just making sure I'm kind of straight with that top. And then my letter K, you can see how beautiful that looks being double-sided. Not that you're going to see the back now, but it's great to have that option. There we go, and that fits beautifully on that mat. So that's my starting point. And from here, I can decorate it as much as I wanted to. I could have put that panel behind it if I wanted to. I'm keeping this one quite simple around the letter because I feel I'm going to go a bit to town with some of the florals. So for the florals, I've got a whole load here in little bowls. Let's bring them in. I would highly recommend with florals and any small dies that you're doing, die cut tons of them and then put them in bowls so they're nice and handy to grab. Carnation sell this mat and ball tools. Let me grab my ball tools. And these are great for shaping your dies and giving them dimension. You get a set of 4. They're double-ended, so that basically means you've got 8. Let me find the last one in my little pot. Excuse me, rummaging here. Here we go. This is great with your florals to give them some dimension. What you're going to do is pick a ball tool that's kind of about the right size, and they do go up to a really nice big one, which is great when you're using bigger die cuts. I've got ball tools from other companies that I've used and I've never had any this good because these go up to a really nice big size. You'll find all of these on the website. And I'm just going to go around the edge, giving that a curve, just giving it a shape. Now, I'm not sure how many of these I want. These large florals come in, you've got sort of the 3 different sizes, so you can layer these up. So well, let's start with one and work out what we need from there. I'm going to stick these on with pin flare because pin flare is going to allow me some dimension and to build these up. So, and again, this is why I've put this mat underneath, because some of this is going to end up on my mat underneath. There we go. So I'm going to start there and then we'll go in with the next size. Just give that a little bit of a shape and then pop that on top of there. You can follow the one underneath or you can offset it a little bit. It's entirely up to you. And then the last one. And of course you can do more than one of each layer if you really want to get some nice height to your project. So that's the top one. And then if I turn that slightly, you can see the dimension I've got there. So that's a great starting point, and I'm going to follow around a little bit. So I think what I might do for the next one is not do the largest. I might go on to just the sort of next level down and the top one. Yeah, let's do that. So let's pop pop one of these. I'm starting off a bit symmetrical, but I don't want it to totally be symmetrical. So I'm going to do one of these each side, but then from there I'm not going to kind of do identical things either side. Don't want it to be too symmetrical. That's going to look a bit odd. So I'll pop that one there. So then I'm going to go in with the next one. And I'm going to offset that a bit so they don't look identical. This is the beauty of having double-sided vignettes, because although you're using the same flower, you can absolutely make it look different by flipping it. Right, so then I'm going to do some smaller. You've got such a great selection here. This one I think looks great, sort of like so, and of course by mirroring it, it's got a slight curve to it. This one I don't think works with the way I'm doing that. These do though. So these are going to look lovely, and these. And these will kind of be the last one, so I think I might have another floral first. Maybe these yellow. These look lovely. So I might do some of these next. And there's a lovely daisy. So we'll pop one of these here. And I might do that slightly forward. This is going to go on in a minute. And then I might pop a smaller flower next to that. If you're not confident about this, just don't stick them down, lay them all out first. I'm sticking as I go because I've made a few of these and I've kind of got a good feel for how the sizes all work, etc. But if it's your first time, just don't stick them down, lay them all out. You could then take a photo with your phone if you want, so you don't forget how you had them. And then you can start to glue them, take them off and glue them down. So don't be intimidated by them, because they really are easy to work with. Now, these have got a very subtle curve, but there is a curve to them, which means you can get them to work really nicely. And then we've got some other smaller flowers here. This one's beautiful. Look at the detail on the artwork on this. We'll pop that one there. I want to get a bit of height here actually, so I'm going to pop two of these. And you can either do it directly or offset it a little bit, like so. So I'm lifting this up every now and then because of course it will be sticking to my mat. I'm not going to use those, so I'm going to use another one of these at the top. Pin flare takes quite a while to dry, which is great because it gives you a lot of wiggle room. And if you stick something down and then think, oh no, that's not quite right, you can take it off and start again. So that's another good thing about doing this, is that you're not kind of committed. You can lift up for quite a while to position things. So we'll kind of, I don't want it to be identical each side, so I am going to pop that there. Might do two of those actually. That kind of curves. Yeah, we'll do it that way. This is the really enjoyable part for me, is the kind of building up the design. It's just such fun. Now I've got some really nice little white flowers here. I'm not going to put a yellow there because I really don't want it to be too symmetrical. I don't want it identical. So I've got these little florals which I'm going to tuck in here. That looks nice. And I think that's enough for that side. And to balance it out, I'm just going to have something here, maybe this daisy and a couple of small flowers. I don't want florals all the way around, that would be too much. But this daisy and maybe a couple of yellow flowers, and leave it at that, just to balance it out diagonally. This layers up, so I think that's going to work quite nicely and be quite subtle. So I'm going to round those, so I'm not going to use that big one, it can go back in the pot. And then I'm going to give this a shape as well. So the daisy is going to go in the centre, like so. So it's going to kind of be on the top diagonal. And it's small enough to not cover my letter. And then I'm just going to slightly tuck that under. And the same the other side, like so. And then I'm not going to add any more flowers, but I'm just going to build some height to that daisy. I think it's a daisy, I'm terrible at flower names. I've got a couple of layers. Yeah, I've got 3, there we go. So I'm going to layer those up. So I'll give all of them a little shape. And then pop them on top, just to give some height. You can really add a lot of height with Pinflair if you want to. Once it dries, it's like concrete. So once it's dry, your flowers aren't going to move. But you do get quite a lot of wiggle room. There we go. So that's got some nice height to it. So the next thing I can do, this is entirely optional, but some of these small florals will fit on here. And it's lovely to decoupage up some of these. So you can see straight away these little daisies will fit on there. So I'm going to put a tiny bit of glue on there and pop my daisy on top. And I'm just going to speed the video up a little bit for this last bit because I'm very conscious of the amount of time this video is taking. But I really wanted this first video that I show you Carnation to be in real time so that you really could see clearly what I was doing and how it all works. Now for these tiny little flowers, you can add as many as you want to. You could do all of them. There's even some really tiny little lilac flowers, which I'm going to do last. I would recommend using a pickup tool for those because they are tiny, but it's really lovely that you can go into this much detail with this. I'm just putting one flower on each. You absolutely can build this up. You don't have to use Pinflair for this. If I've got some really tiny little foam pads that would have worked here as well. So totally up to you how you want to attach them. But you can see I'm just working my way through decoupaging up some of these florals. So once I've done these, this is going to be finished. Just to recap, really, I'm going to put in the description box details of all of this because I'm very aware that if you're totally new to Carnation, there's quite a lot of information in this video. So I'm going to type it all in the description box, as well as links to the Carnation Crafts website and all the products. So you're going to see there how it all works and where you go to get your downloads, etc. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. It's been nice to do something a bit different actually. So you can see now this is going to fit nicely on my little stand. And I can give that to my mum now for Mother's Day. So thanks for joining me today, and I will see you soon.